You cannot get there by car. Flow the waters from the mountain, rivers to the sea. In the water there is a power.
So maybe the two groups tend to pigeonhole and stereotype each other to some fairly great extent. I can tell you that the union members I represent are ones that do to some extent pigeonhole and stereotype the environmental community here in Missoula. And I think that to the extent that I'm familiar within the environmental community, that the pigeonholing and the stereotyping also goes the other way.
Workers are getting beat down now as bad as ever, as bad as they were 100 years ago. And most of the unions the unions the second I worked for came into existence in a formal way in this country. The need is there. Carpenters today, even union carpenters, I don't care where you go in this country, are not making a living where they can support their families at the same level they did in the 1950s.
This morning, I want to focus my presentation as I speak about environmental justice on two key issues. First, I want to talk about the politics of exclusion and the politics of inclusion.
I see it as the disproportionate placement of environmental hazards in communities of color, and the desperate kind of governmental enforcement mechanisms in communities of color. And I believe you mentioned the National Law Journal report on the EPA and how the EPA enforces very differently in communities of color than they do in white communities.
Y eso es porque en la ley, o más bien en el sistema legal que yo veo, es que trabajamos en el mismo nivel de trabajo en el campo, pero cuando pedimos alguna representación no nos sabemos quién somos.
I travel all over the country and listen to similar stories that we've heard this morning. And I just came back from Florida, Pensacola, Florida, where there's an African American community, a community who is exposed to levels of dioxin that are higher than the levels at Lufkin, where I'm from, are higher than the levels in Times Beach, Missouri, where people were evacuated, white folks. My community also was white folks. Was higher than most communities, white folks, who have been evacuated. The community has skin rashes. The community talks about how their pets are sexually confused, symptomatic of dioxin. The community talks about how many people have died from cancer, and as you walk through this very nice, pretty, suburban, low-income community where the homes are manicured and the yards are manicured, as you walk along, you see little white crosses in the front yards of all of the people who have died in Pensacola that the residents believe are related to dioxin.
It was so ghastly. I guess I've been there 6, 8 times, starting in the middle of the war in '69. I flew with the Air Force on spray missions. And I watched the bombs come down and the lone plows tear everything up, the uprooting of the refugees, etc. And I'll say, frankly, I'll never forgive the government of the United States, not my government, the government of the United States for what they did to the people of Indochina, particularly Vietnam.
So my topic is early exposure of Native American people to environmental and health toxins. I just would like to ask, as a starting point, whether any of you have something in mind that might be a primary toxin that Native people were introduced to once white contact took place.
They take money from corporations. It costs millions of dollars to get to the lower house, $20 million to get to be a senator. In fact, most senators are millionaires. And they're not representative of you, and it costs $60 million to be president. And so you have to know that those people have had their souls bought before they get into the Congress, and they don't represent you, they represent the corporations. In your country, you all know that, is run by corporations and not by you. And even in your own state senate, I hear that they degraded the clean water bill. Is that correct? So that this big copper mining company can come in. You've got a huge super fund here, right in the middle of paradise. And that has to be changed. And the only people who can change it are you.
The first is the story that I tell as a biologist, and it's my best attempt to outline and summarize all the lines of evidence that I believe are very persuasive in demonstrating that there is a profound link between environmental contamination on the one hand and rising rates of cancer on the other. The other piece of living downstream is my own personal story as a cancer survivor myself. I was diagnosed with bladder cancer at the age of 20.
I'm very happy to be here today, and I want to talk with you about some of the observations that my colleagues and I have made about the links between breast cancer and environment. But let me be very clear. It is still a puzzle. The links don't all necessarily fit together. But what I want to do in my remarks today is try to shift the public discussion to the things that you can do to reduce your risk, not just as individuals, but the things that we have to all work together in society, in government, and in the private sector to do.
We've got to change political reality. And that means every one of us in this room has to work every day to do that. We have to talk to our family members, our neighbors, and make them see what is going on. We need a revolution. And I know you're all looking at me saying, a revolution? I'm sorry, we need a revolution. We have to take back our government, and we have to take it back from the corporations, and we have to give it back to the people. And you think we can't do this? We never thought we'd be in the situation we are with the Cold War. I didn't think I'd ever see the Soviet Union break down. And I'm from Africa, and I tell you, I never thought I'd see the day when black people in South Africa would have the right to vote and be peaceful.
And I have a very special speaker to start out with. This is Morgan Eichwald, and she's going to say what clean water means to her.
Hi, my name is Morgan Eichwald. I'm a fifth-generation Montanan, and I'm 10 years old. I won't be able to vote for 8 years. By the time I'm able to vote, the Blackfoot River could be ruined. And me and my family always go rafting and fishing down the Blackfoot River. And if I-122 doesn't go through, it'd be disgusting to go swimming in all the chemicals, and I wouldn't be able to eat the fish that I caught, and I'd be afraid of my dogs drinking the water. So go out there and vote for I-122. Thanks.